I started this exploratory work on masculinity and femininity over 10 years ago. I wanted to know what shapes, textures, and lighting evoke the feminine form. I wanted to find the tipping point on the spectrum where masculinity and femininity begin to touch and intermingle. Though all that time has elapsed, dyads continue to haunt me. Their subject-object. Linguistics, on a foundational level, begins its instruction with word order. In English, the subject-verb-object sequence establishes a framework of action in which the actor acts upon the acted upon. Lopate states that the use of the first person invokes the potential for an unreliable narrator, a device we usually think of as reserved strictly for fiction. Then there's host-guest. It is a picture of the classic have and have-not scenario when the have-not enters the space of the have. Host or hostess has a positive connotation of politeness and hospitality, one who opens up their home and resources. The arrangements a hostess of a party or gathering makes for a guest are exact, as stated, arrangements. Conditions are attached. Atkinson explains, of course, there is always the possibility that the generous host is, in fact, a monster who offers hospitality only to make a meal of the guest. Politeness is instilled through training or repetition of desired behavior. As the object of training, the child is shaped into obedience. In addition to host and guest, there is a host and demon, or host and parasite. The host provides form for the formless. There is no welcome, no consent. It's getting a little messy here, huh? We move on to prescriber-patient. The prescriber illustrates the give as the patient represents the take. The patient reveals their suffering, shares parts of their story or narrative that no one else may be aware of, and takes the prescription prescribed by the provider. Vulnerability with the provider is enforced. The prescriber gives the diagnosis or misdiagnosis, provides the means to medication and a fix, and consumes the patient's often emotional story without giving the self. Unrequited, raw emotion or attempts at expression tend to feel that way. The patient then must come to terms with their identity. There's the gaze and gazed upon. The sign signified brings up the problem of authenticity. Authentication happens through the repetition of signs, always signaling what they claim to represent. Evidence stacks up to validate legitimacy. Reliability is in the recurrence. Man-woman. Sexual intercourse has similar pathways for invitation in one case and invasion in another. Do men give love to receive respect? Do women give respect to receive love? There's masculinity and femininity, and predator and prey. Does this pair bring up images of animals for you, or of men and women? Levinas tells us, expression does not consist in giving us the other's interiority. The other who expresses himself precisely does not give himself and accordingly retains the freedom to lie. No narrator is reliable when expression is unreliable. Let me reestablish these constructs. They're not seeming to stay put. A description and understanding of self involve thoughts, feelings, impulses, sensations, and the endeavor to resolve the dissonance that results when attempting to bring the inside to the outside. Impression, intention. Expression is a lie the moment it leaves the lips. All narration is unreliable. Intention is inexpressible. Consent. Violence. Conditions. Our vocabulary, definitions, linguistics. Let me just